So welcome everybody. If you have not been with us before, welcome. And if you have, welcome back to week 3. I am going to follow suit as Angela and Danielle did the last couple of weeks and try to really stick with our 30-minute timeline so that I'm not taking up too much of anybody's time, but I'm happy to stay behind and answer any questions or have conversations about anything that might be unclear, of course. So let's go ahead and get started. This week we are talking about media milestones. I guess before I jump into this, I should ask, did anyone have any questions about anything that has happened in the past 2 weeks? We're at the halfway point, and we are all hopeful that everyone is clear on the objectives and purpose of this material and this class. But do any of you have any questions about anything up to now? Is there anything that stood out? Anything that resonated with you? Anything you want to talk about? Not seeing any chatter in the chat board. Everything's crystal clear, not at this time. Perfect. Okay, well, it looks like Danielle is here with us today, so she will be taking a closer look at the chat board, and I will glance down when I can. But thank you, Danielle, for monitoring the chat and answering questions there. And as I said, if anyone wants to speak, please feel free to add any commentary or ask any questions. If you raise your hand, I will unmute you and you can go ahead and jump right in. So, this week, our discussion is covering viral videos, and so what we're asking you to do is kind of take a look at what creates viral videos. What is it that attracts us to these videos? Why do we pass them along? But in the process, we're always looking back, right, at the past. So we're going to still be taking a look at media historically and how that has undergone changes technologically, and also how we use that commercially. So these are the videos that you were asked to view, and have any of you taken a look at these yet? It doesn't tell me when you're typing, so I have to kind of wait for it to pop up. So Ebony and Tariq, yes, you have. Is there anything that resonated with you or stuck out, or that you've learned from those videos that might be helpful to your classmates? Not seeing anything pop up on the chat board, but you might be typing. Okay, Ebony, you've watched the Jimmy Kimmel one before, and so from that video, would you say that you had a pretty good understanding of how Jimmy Kimmel is a trendsetter and how when he shows things on his show, they probably have a pretty good chance of becoming viral? Because he's a tastemaker, right? He's a trendsetter. So people like Jimmy Kimmel have the power in the media to share things, and then they go ahead and get shared by audience members as well, and that contributes to them becoming viral. You were looking for that word, tastemaker, yes. And then in the TED Talk, Kevin Aloka, I don't ever know if I say his name right, but he talks all about the different qualities that make videos viral. And so has anyone watched the TED Talk yet? It's really interesting because I don't really want to give away what he talks about because I want you to watch it and interpret it for yourself. But um, unexpectedness is one of the qualities that helps to make videos go viral. So sometimes I will look at things that are passed around on Facebook or Twitter or any social media really, and I'll think, just why? What is the attraction like, and how do people have the time to find these videos and pass them around? But after listening to his TED Talk, I understood a lot more about how we look at these different videos and something so unexpected happens that we can't help but share, or something so that we find so funny or mindless. So I hope that you guys enjoy those videos and that they're helpful to you when you are participating in the discussion this week, if that's the option that you choose. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the discussion guidelines. I'm not going to read this, of course, word for word because you're all intelligent adults and you know how to do that, but you are just being asked to go out and find a video that has gone viral and to share that link with your classmates and myself, and then go ahead and break down why you think this is a viral video. So you would be looking back at the materials and tying it into the concepts that you've learned about this week. So you guys have done really, in my class, I can say, a really good job of that. And I thank you for making it such a pleasure to read such thoughtful, insightful posts and responses to your classmates. I find that, yeah, Danielle said same here. I find that for some reason in my online classes, my students really dive in like wholeheartedly, and they get it that what we as instructors want to see is, it's not about how many words you can put on a page or fluff, how many times you can repeat the same sentence in 6 different ways. It's about, do you understand the content, and are you taking meaning from this, and does it make sense to you so that you can carry that knowledge beyond Full Sail into whatever career you would be going into from here. So thank you, and if ever it's unclear what we're asking, certainly contact us, because that's what we're here for, is to help guide you along. But basically just to do what you've been doing, and that is taking a good look at the materials and then posting thoughtful, insightful information that lets us know that you understand and you can apply these concepts. So after you've explained what your clip is and why you think it qualifies as a viral video or media, I'm sorry, I can talk, media milestone or touchstone, make sure that you share the link. Sometimes people forget to do that. It's just an honest mistake, but they'll be writing all about this video that they watched, and we'll have no idea what they're talking about because we can't go see the video. So make sure you do that first and foremost, share that link, and then explain in what ways does this viral video relate to our past media milestones, and how does this relate to the culture at large? Because as we know, in pop culture and media, it's always an expression or a sign of the times, right? So if something is popular, it's probably because it speaks to what's happening in our world or what's popular in our world, or what we want to make popular in our world. So you would discuss the clip, the viral qualities, the milestone aspects, and don't get too caught up in discussing what the video is about. Sometimes students will do that where they'll, 2 or 3 paragraphs explaining the video, but just a quick overview, because we're going to go and watch the video. So you don't have to make a big to-do about that in particular. And then just think about the interactions between technology, media, and culture. Tie those 3 together and use that as the material for your discussions. As always, your initial post is due Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and your second and final post is due by Sunday. And we ask that you do your very best to post by Wednesday, because that gives you guys from Wednesday to Sunday to read through what your classmates have said and decide who you want to respond to. And you're only required to respond to one person, but by all means, feel free to respond to as many people as you want to get that discussion board to be more interactive and meaningful. We do offer the option that if you, for some reason, can't post by Wednesday evening, we don't want you to lose that opportunity to be able to share. So we ask that you make up for that by responding to at least 2 people to make up for the initial late post, and then you wouldn't lose points. So that said, do you have any questions about the discussion this week? None. Okay. Thank you, Claude. No. Ebony said no. Very clear. Thank you, Tariq. Okay. So, of course, as always, if you guys think of anything as we go along, or after we finish, or even, later today, tomorrow, whenever, you can always contact your instructor and ask them for clarification. I think that Danielle, if you were with us last week, did a really great job of explaining what our expectations are in using the RISE model to respond. So I'm not going to beat that dead horse, but know that the chart is in there. And remember that we're not just asking you to respond by saying, oh yeah, hey, cool post, I agree, bye. It needs to be more substance, and we need to know that you are really thinking about what your classmates have said, you're reflecting on that, you're asking them some questions, you're making some suggestions. So, on to the week 3 assignment. And if you choose to do that assignment, that is on technology, media, and culture. And so let's take a look at that. What we are asking you to do in this particular assignment is to think of a technological invention or innovation that you think has really changed or made significant cultural impact. So focus on something really specific, and this is not like a high school book report, right? We're not asking you for the history necessarily, although you can give a quick overview of that if you want to. But we're asking you to explain what this invention is and how this has impacted or changed the media industry. So, for example, if we never had CDs, or prior to having CDs to record music, how was the world a different place, right? So before we had reel to reel, before we had cassette tapes, before we had 8-track tapes, before we had CDs, or whatever it is that you pick. So, for example, if you picked a smartphone to talk about, how has that technological invention changed our lives? And what do we see culturally as a result? How has that impacted us? So then we ask that you use your, I just lost my train of thought, sorry, that you use your sources from the library, because we have a really great library database that is accessible to you guys, and there's tons and tons of information there. So please cite at least one article. I would encourage you to cite more than that. And one of the things that I often see when students do like a keynote presentation, for example, of this, is they cite their sources at the end and they forget to cite their sources throughout in their slides. So that's really important that you do that. Make sure that if you're sharing some kind of information, that you put that on a slide. Maybe you put a chart about the changes in an iPhone, for example, over the years. Well, you didn't just have that in your head. You pulled that information from somewhere. So you need to make sure that you credit that source, because otherwise, even though you might not be meaning to, you're plagiarizing, and that's really serious. And we don't want any of you to get into trouble for that. So please make sure that you are citing your sources both at the end and throughout your presentation. What we do want you to discuss is why, how, or in what ways this invention has changed and has been significant to the culture. And so we ask that you submit this in a narrated keynote if you choose this option. And then if you would or could please export this to a QuickTime movie. That's really helpful to us, because for some reason, when you create something in Keynote, and it's narrated, if we stop and then we start again, it doesn't pause it at the place I'm at. So let's say that you have 16 slides, and at slide number 8, I have to take a phone call, or a colleague is speaking to me about something, and I stop your keynote, it makes me start all over again. So this is pretty time consuming. So that's why we ask that if you can please export to a QuickTime movie. Now, if you have a keynote presentation and you are trying to minimize the text on the slides, because we do recommend that, it makes it more visually appealing and helps your audience focus on what you're saying rather than a bunch of words on the screen, then I would suggest you go ahead and put your text down in the presenter notes of your keynote, and you can submit both to your instructor, or if you just want to copy and paste your text of your narration onto a Word document, you can do that too, just in case if your instructor maybe they're listening and they think, did they say that? I'm not sure. They can look back at the Word document or the keynote. So that said, We are not grading you on stumbling. I hope you're not grading me on stumbling because I've already done that about 3 times during this past 25 minutes. And so don't worry too much about that. We are asking that you keep it to between 3 and 5 minutes in length. We have found that you are able to fit in the necessary information during that time, and that you be mindful of that, because sometimes I know with the best of intentions, students get carried away and they might have a 10-minute presentation. But if you can imagine, if everyone is doubling their time and each of us has between 25 and 50 students, then that doubles the time that it takes us to be able to watch your presentations. So, Ebony, you said, yay, you get to use your new microphone. Well, I'm happy that someone's excited about it, because a lot of times people are dreading it. And so I understand that too, but I'm happy that you get to use your new microphone too. Okay, so that's all I have. We are just about 22 minutes in, and so I want to leave a little bit of time for you to ask any questions or share any comments or concerns with Danielle and myself. And I'll just pause here for a second until you have some time to type in the chat board or raise your hand. You have no questions. Okay, thank you, Ebony. Anybody else? Any questions at all? Any thoughts that you want to share? Anything that you think that we should add or that would be helpful to you guys? We're always looking to improve and make this better. Pietro, you feel prepared? Good. Corey, no ma'am, thank you. Claude, no questions, you're good. Okay, well, if that's all you guys have, and Danielle, you're good, I'm good, and I guess we'll say goodbye for now, and we will be back next Tuesday at 11:30, and I believe that will be with Stephanie. So we'll see you guys there. Thanks for joining us, and have a perfect week. Thanks, guys.